please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. Limited public comment at this time. Any member of the public wishing to address the committee may do so for up to 3 minutes. Yeah, I thought Aaron was going to talk to us for a minute there. All righty, seeing none. First on our agenda is Jim McManus. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the Michigan Department of Agriculture, Farmland, and Open Space Preservation Program application, more commonly known as PA 116. 18-6, 18-7, 18-8 for Spring Creek Farm in sections 2, 14, 21 of Johnstown Township.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Parker, second by Gibson. Mr. McManus,
Sure.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So these are 3 distinct properties in Johnstown Township. They are all zoned either rural residential or agricultural, all planned rural residential or conservation. In each of the categories, agriculture is a by right permitted use. Spring Creek Farm obviously has been here many times and has a lot of properties in the PA 116 program. So this is there. This has taken a while to get here, unfortunately. This was submitted in December. We didn't have a meeting because of Christmas. The January meeting was blizzarded out. We did the February meeting. So this should have been processed a while ago, but it doesn't penalize them. We're getting it in before the end of the year. But recommended by the Planning Commission at our February meeting for you, and we recommended it, not an issue.
I can tell you that when it gets to the state, it takes a whole lot longer. So your
Yes.
little delay is nothing.
Yes.
Any questions for Mr. McManus? All righty. Seeing none. Forgot my stuff. The motion was made by, okay. There being no further discussion, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the Michigan Department of Agriculture, Farmland, and Open Space Preservation Program application, more commonly known as PA 116, 18-6, 18-7, 18-8 for Spring Creek Farm in sections 2, 14, 21 of Johnstown Township. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if I just slow down and stop trying to hurry up, we can get this done
Heather?
right.
You said 18-1 or 18-6, 18-7?
1816, 1817, 1818.
Oh, 18, 16, 17, and 18. You said 8, 6, 7. So I just want to make sure that that goes in that way. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Next on our agenda is Michael, and at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of Budget Amendment A19.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jackson, second by Smelker. Mr. Brown.
Good morning.
Morning.
Is that on? There. That this way. Good morning. Yes, this is the first budget amendment of the year. It does not include any amendments to the general fund revenues, and the expenditure amendments to the general fund do not result in a change to the general fund budget total. In fact, I think it adds slightly to the contingency amount. So it is in the format that you're used to seeing, with a summary at the beginning. Revenues for the general fund, albeit nothing has changed on pages, and I'm looking at the pages that are not on the PDF pages. I know those don't line up. So through page 5 are revenues. Expenditures are on page 6 and 7, and again, there are two two changes. One is a slight reduction to the Indigent Defense Fund appropriation on page 6 of $6,792. That's just to, now that we know the budget, when we put this together, we didn't know all of the numbers relative to the appropriation amount. This aligns with what our requirement is for the 2019 budget year. On the miscellaneous side, we reduced that by almost $27,000. That was due to our auditing services contract. If you recall, we bid that out. When we were putting the budget together, we didn't have that final bid number. We now, well, we had that after the budget, before the beginning of the year, so now that the year's underway, we can amend that and brings that down considerably. The last amendment to the general fund would then be on page 7, which is an increase in contingency by approximately $34,000. So your uncommitted contingency budget goes from $97,000 to just shy of $132,000 for the year. So I guess a good way to start the year, we're adding to it as opposed to taking from it right off the get-go.
Exactly.
I'm sure there will be plenty of opportunities, though, as the year goes on. And then there are a few amendments to special revenue and other funds that are identified on pages 9 through 11, within the detail to that, or those amendments on page 12. I'd be happy to walk you through any of those if you have any questions. Not a terribly comprehensive amendment at this point, but nonetheless necessary.
Any questions for Michael? I always like it when there's extra money in the checkbook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good thing. Hopefully the next time we come, we'll have audit numbers to add to the mix and be able to give you a quick update about where the 2018 year ended.
If there's no further discussion, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of Budget Amendment A19. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners appointing 2 commissioners to serve on a special ad hoc committee in accordance with Article 7 of the Berry County Board of Commissioners Rules of Procedures and Regulations for the purpose of relocating the front of the court office to the Courts and Law Building.
So moved. Second.
Jackson, supported by Gibson. And Parker, and Smelker. Okay, Mr. Brown.
Sure, the Article 7 of the board rules indicate that the board may establish from time to time such special committees as are deemed necessary, shall be advisory in nature, and the purpose shall be determined at the time the special committee is established. At least 2 commissioners shall be a member and may report recommendations to the board for appropriate action. Once they're finished, they shall be then immediately dissolved once their task is finished. This follows in what we or what the board had done in implementing the construction projects relating to the Titan Center and then the Circuit Court renovation downstairs. The board appointed 2 commissioners, Commissioner Smelker and Commissioner Connor, to work with staff. At that time it was Dave Schiniver with IT and Tim Neeb with Building and Grounds and myself, and then the staff specific to those projects that were impacted. So when the Titan Center, MSU Extension, they pulled in to get information and feedback and whatnot. We are at a point that I think the board is at a point that they have talked about over the years, moving Friend of the Court from its existing location in the Friend of the Court, what's known as the Friend of the Court building, to the Courts and Law, the space vacated by MSU Extension. And I would propose and suggest that you might consider following the process that you've used in the past. It worked very well with those two projects, the Tyden Center and the Circuit Court renovation. Kept the projects moving. It allowed an opportunity to provide feedback to the board on a regular basis, as well as kept the projects within budget. There is not a budget at this point for this project. That is part of the task that this committee would be undertaking, is to work with, in this case, Landmark Design. Landmark designed and built. They're the architect of record for the Courts and Law facility. They have done some preliminary work years in the past relative to placing Friend of the Court in that location. The board has refrained from doing it until this point, or up to this point, based on the reimbursement that we received from the state of Michigan. The debt that currently exists on the Friend of the Court building, we're able to capture reimbursement from through the Cooperative Reimbursement Program because Friend of the Court occupies that building. That debt is due to expire, I think it's 2021, if my memory serves me. So we're getting very close to that debt being finished up, and it seems now would be the time to take a look at the potential of moving, what the cost would be, how we would go about that. There are some other variables that exist. We now have indigent defense that's in the Courts and Law building. We believe that that should remain. The goal is to keep those programs that function within the court system to the degree we can in that building, as well those programs that have a more heightened security requirement, to keep them in that building that's a little bit more secured. So it would, again, be to begin the process and bring back a recommendation to this board with a plan to actually move the Friend of the Court over, time frame for that, a budget, and then ultimately get permission to bid that project out. We will, when I say bid it out, we are going to look at the ability to, or at least the thought would be to look at, are we able to do any of that project in-house? Is it manageable enough? Just don't know at this point, but if we can, we have some talented staff. The downside is that we don't have a lot of extra staff, so if we task them to a fixed project for a fixed period of time, what they're currently doing has to either be backfilled, and we just don't have that backfill, or go undone. So there is some risk that exists. So, I've said quite a lot. I'll stop for just a minute and answer any questions.
Dan?
Are we obligated to go with Landmark, or can we bid out for other things if we needed to?
We are not obligated to go with Landmark. You certainly, you're working with Tower Pinkster at the moment on the jail and Commission on Aging. They could certainly do the work. There are many out there that can.
I just want to know if there was a contract with them for doing this. Okay.
There isn't. There will, I would reach out to them, and I don't anticipate this being a very sizable
You're right.
endeavor. It's a smaller project and professional services contract to do the design work, and then from there we would look at the more expensive portion. By far is going to be the actual construction of it, and that's where we would look at how complex it becomes and needs to be. Is it something, again, we can do at least some of it internally? Can we do we have to rise to doing a general contractor? We just don't know at this point.
Any other questions for Michael?
Has this been brought up in the past, Michael? Is this something that's been coming around? Why hasn't this moved forward in the past?
You know, a couple things. One is it has been talked about for a number of years. It's been a desire of the courts. Past administrations, on the court side, we're concerned that there might not be enough room to fit front of the court in there. The most current administration under Judge Doherty and the trial court and Inez as trial court administrator believe that there is enough space, and they believe that there's probably not any extra space, but there is enough space, and maybe more importantly, if I can go as far as to speak on their behalf, feel that it's just too important not to. Having all of the staff in one location is a goal and a priority to them for a variety of reasons, cross-training and others. So why we haven't looked, that's part of maybe the human side of why we haven't in the past. The economic side of it, why we haven't in the past or why we haven't done it earlier, has to do with the reimbursement that we receive from the state and taking advantage of the ability to capture that. We will still be able to capture when any renovations that occur with the new building, but it won't be as efficient in that that's a standalone building. Friend of the court is the only occupant, so the entire space is allocated to friend of the court and all the costs associated with it. Because courts and law is a space that is shared with others, those areas that are deemed public in that building, not specifically related to friend of the court offices and the like, bathrooms, hallways, will be allocated based on the percentage of use. So you do lose a little bit of, as well, there won't be a debt. I highly doubt there will be a debt. We're looking at, my hope is this project would be a project that we'd be able to accomplish through the Building Rehabilitation Fund funds that we have on hand.
So our capture is going to go down by 50%, or is that?
Yeah, that's part of what we'll look at and
Okay.
come back to. Actually, within a year, well, that's not true. By 2021, the capture on that building, at least the debt will go off. There won't be a debt to capture. This building will then have some renovation costs that could be captured.
Any other questions for Michael? So, since I've never appointed an ad hoc committee before, help me through this process. I've been appointed to one, just haven't done it.
Sure, I'd see that generally the board makes or the chair makes a recommendation, and then it does say that the board may establish. So I would see that you'd potentially make the recommendation, and the board would ratify that and approve the members and the establishment of the special ad hoc committee.
So, then I guess I would recommend to the board that we create an ad hoc committee with 2 commissioners on the committee. my opinion is that Commissioner Smelker and Commissioner Connor both worked on the building subcommittee that worked through the renovations in this building and the Titan Center. And I believe that they worked very well together. And having discussed it with Commissioner Connor, I know that she would be willing to serve on that committee. And I haven't spoke with Commissioner Smelker. I believe he would also be willing to serve. So that's my recommendation to the board, that we create an ad hoc committee of 2 commissioners to work with the necessary courts, county staff, and Landmark Design, or whichever design company they deem necessary, to prepare a plan and a budget for the relocation of the front of the court to the Courts and Law Building.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Jackson, support by Gibson. Is there any discussion?
Will we be doing the same thing with any other building projects that come?
I believe so.
Will we have representatives then?
I think that's certainly up to the board.
Okay.
It has worked, seems to have worked well in the past.
I think that this is a smaller project
Yeah,
and that we
yeah.
can
Yeah.
try to get this, in my opinion, this is a work that started in 15 when we got the facilities master plan. 2 years ago, when we went on a tour of the facilities, it was definitely in our sights as something that needed to be accomplished. It has been 2 years since we've been to the front of the court and to all of our ancillary campuses. So I think that it's important to keep the progress working. And this is something, like Michael said, it's not a big budget item that we're gonna have to ask for help with. This is something that we already have the funds to, we're projecting to have the funds, and we won't have to be creative on how we get this paid for. Any other discussion? Seeing none, the question before the board is to create or to appoint an ad hoc committee to work with the necessary county staff and Landmark Design or other design company to prepare a plan and a budget for the relocation of the front of the court to the Courts and Law Building. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is approved.
All right, thank you.
At this time, limited public comment. Oh, I thought you were going to talk to us, Rick. Putting you on the spot. All right, seeing none. And with no objection, the committee will stand adjourned.
Good job.